The Stanford Prison Experiment was a controversial psychology study conducted in 1971 by Philip Zimbardo and his research team, aimed to explore the psychological effects of power and authority within the context of a simulated prison environment. This thought-provoking study delved into the causes of conflicts between prisoners and guards and shed light on the role of the prison environment in shaping human behavior. The experiment was conducted over a span of 6 days in August 1971. Zimbardo and his research group recruited a group of unsuspecting college students to participate in the study. The experiment was funded by the United States Office of Naval Research and sought to investigate the dynamics between guards and prisoners in the Navy and Marine Corps. Zimbardo aimed to determine whether the reported brutality among guards in American prisons stemmed from their sadistic personalities or was primarily influenced by the prison environment. To create an authentic prison experience, Zimbardo converted the basement of the Stanford University Psychology Building into a simulated prison. Volunteers were sought through advertisements, and after a rigorous selection process, 24 male students were chosen as ideal test subjects. The group was randomly divided into prisoners and guards, with the guards assigned 8-hour shifts in sets of 3, while the prisoners were housed 3 to a cell. To immerse the participants fully, the experiment began with a dramatic arrest scenario. The college students were taken from their homes, fingerprinted, photographed, and booked at a local police station. Blindfolded, they were then transported to the basement prison at Stanford University. Upon arrival, they were stripped naked, had their personal possessions confiscated and locked away, and were provided with prison clothes and bedding. Their individual identities were replaced by numbers, further intensifying the prison experience. The guards, dressed in identical uniforms, were equipped with whistles and batons borrowed from the police. They also wore sunglasses to prevent any eye contact with the prisoners. While physical violence was prohibited, they were instructed to maintain law and order by any means necessary. Zimbardo himself observed the behavior of the participants and assumed the role of a prison warden, immersing himself in the experiment. Within hours of the experiment's commencement, the guards began asserting their authority and subjecting the prisoners to various forms of harassment. In the early morning hours, the guards would blow their whistles to wake the prisoners and conduct a count, reminding them of their subservience and the guards' control. The prisoners were assigned menial tasks and faced punishments, such as push-ups for disobedience. Some guards even went as far as stepping on the prisoners' backs during these exercises, increasing the physical strain. As the prisoners adapted to their roles, their behavior also began to change. They resorted to gossiping about each other, and some even aligned themselves with the guards against non-compliant prisoners. Surprisingly, the first day of the experiment passed relatively smoothly, potentially creating a false sense of security among the guards. However, the situation quickly escalated on the second day, leading to a loss of control. During the second day, the prisoners revolted against their captors. They removed their caps and ripped off their assigned numbers, barricading themselves inside their cells by placing their beds against the doors. In response, the guards used a fire extinguisher to force the prisoners away from their cells. Breaking into each cell, they stripped the prisoners naked. The ringleaders of the rebellion were isolated in solitary confinement, while the few prisoners who abstained from participating were given special privileges. This deliberate division within the prison population further fueled the evolving relationship between the guards and the prisoners. As the prisoners became more dependent, the guards grew increasingly divisive to maintain control. As the experiment progressed, some participants began to experience severe emotional and psychological distress. Just 36 hours into the experiment, prisoner 8,612 exhibited acute emotional disturbance and disorganized thinking, resulting in uncontrollable bouts of crying and rage. Despite being told he could not leave, his distress became so severe that the psychologists realized they had to intervene and release him from the experiment. To add an additional layer of realism, visiting hours were held for parents and friends, simulating the experience of a real prison. A Catholic priest, who had previously served as a prison chaplain, was invited to the prison. During individual interviews, the chaplain informed the prisoners that their only hope for release lay in the assistance of a lawyer. This interaction further deepened the psychological impact on the participants. Originally planned to run for 2 weeks, The Stanford Prison Experiment was abruptly halted after just 6 days. Christina Maslach, a Stanford PhD brought in to conduct interviews, was appalled by the abuse inflicted by the guards upon the prisoners. "It's terrible what you are doing to these boys," she exclaimed. Years later, Zimbardo himself acknowledged how deeply he had immersed himself in the role of a prison superintendent, blurring the line between researcher and participant. The Stanford Prison Experiment remains one of the most controversial studies in the history of social psychology. It demonstrated that individuals readily conform to the social roles they are assigned, particularly when those roles are strongly stereotyped. However, the experiment also raises questions about the ethical boundaries of psychological research and the potential harm inflicted on participants. This experiment has left an indelible mark on the field of psychology, challenging our understanding of human behavior and the power dynamics that exist within social institutions. It serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the potential consequences when individuals are placed in situations that strip them of their autonomy and subject them to oppressive systems. As we reflect on this controversial study, let us strive to create environments that empower and uplift rather than degrade and oppress. Like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.